Hello, YouTube pipers. Double O Pipe here. Still smoking in my Molina. And I thought I'd use some more of this. Handsome Stranger. I was about to say Hello Stranger from that old song. I don't really have anything to talk about. I just wanted to say hey, because it's Friday. I haven't been on this thing for a while. I got up this morning early because I had bought some rutabagas and a big chunk of pork. On Wednesday when I went to the grocery store, because I've had a hankering for some rutabagas and rice. Haven't had rutabagas and rice since my mama passed away. So I said, I'll just do it. Well, I didn't actually know how my mother did it. So I went on YouTube and watched a few of those things, and none of them looked like what my mother did. So I searched the cupboard down there for the biggest pot I could find, and the biggest one I could find was a old, it had been down there for years. It was an old pressure cooker without the weight on the top. And I said, well, that's the biggest pot I got. So I only got 2 rutabagas. Should have gotten more. Cutting them up was a real chore. That's some hard vegetable there. As I say, it's a root vegetable, very dense. And dense it was. And I cut through that with the sharpest knife I had. I bought it not too long ago because I needed a sharp knife. And like I say, it's the sharpest one I got. So I got that cut up into chunks, threw it in the pot, and put in a layer of water so it'd be underwater. Of course, it float, but still. And then I took out that piece of pork I got. It was the smallest one I could find. I don't think it's the right one because I wanted a pork shoulder, but the pork shoulder they had was twice as big as that, twice as high as that. It was just way too much meat. So I said, no, I'll settle for this. Unwrapped that and cut it up. Still too much, the size of it. So I wrapped up what was left and put it up in the freezer because I don't know when I'll use that again. And the thing I was concerned about is, do you let the rice boil with it the whole time? Because everything I read said you need to boil it for this long, or at least until the rutabaga itself became tender. So I put it on to boil, threw in salt, pepper, and a teaspoon and a half of sugar to kind of help neutralize the bitterness of the rutabaga. And those things, when you get them from the store, they're covered in wax. So anyway, I had to peel all that stuff off before I cut it up. Not sure why they coat them in wax. Must be something to preserve it. I don't know. And anyway, I put it on for 4 hours. Every half hour or so, I'd get up and stir it some. I had water in the kettle so that when it boiled down some, I would add boiling water to it so it would never stop cooking. And about 1:30, 2 o'clock, must have been 1:30, I added a small package of rice, long grain white rice, Uncle Ben's. Came back and looked at it, stirred it up. Didn't see any rice in there, so I added 2 more cups of rice. Not being wise in the cooking of rice and realizing that it probably takes on twice its size, if not more, when it soaks up the water. And I looked at it a half an hour later, and it was no longer bubbling. It was almost a solid up top where the rice had just swollen with all the water that was in there. So I got some water in the kettle and poured it in there so it was once again liquid and bubbling. And it was about that far from the rim. So I've got this humongous pot up to the top with rutabagas and rice. Well, after the timer went off, I pulled it over to the side so it can kind of cool down a little bit and the rice can just soak up the rest of that water and make a solid mass. After about, well, it was about 3 o'clock, I walked over there and got a bowl full. And that's when I decided I didn't have enough rutabaga in there because it just didn't have the flavor of the rutabaga permeating everything that was in there. Maybe after it sits for a while, or maybe overnight, all of that flavor will intermingle. Now, I got to figure out where to put that humongous, because I don't think I have room in the refrigerator. It's too high and it's... What do you do when you're not equipped with a brain that knows about cooking? But I learned something. And the next time I cook rutabagas and rice, I'll know a little better what to do. Anyway, I got a bowl full of it and sat down and ate it. It was a little too hot still to taste the flavors, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I mean, it wasn't as good as my mother's when I was younger, but it's close. As my aunt always said to my mother's cooking, it's good, but, meaning something missing. So this is good, but. I always remember that when my aunt was over here, my mother was cooking something. She'd bring over a little bit and say, "What do you think?" And she'd taste it and make that face and she'd say, "It's good, but." Never failed. that was awesome. My mother her cooking was perfect in her family's eyes. Mine but her sister. That's good, but they were both good cooks. Oh, well, like I say, I've been writing every morning, and I remembered when I was before I started school, just really getting acquainted with Clyde. I was 4, he was 8. I guess I was about 5 when this incident occurred. And he used to go, the golf course was right close to us, and he used to go over the golf course and sell Kool-Aid to the golfers. This was on the 17th tee off, and he would make his stand there and sell it to the golfers. And naturally, I said, "Can I help?" He said, "Well, if you help, you got to get paid." I said, "Yeah, I could use some money." He said, "I don't know. I don't make a whole lot on this." I said, "Please, please let me." And he looked at me, and this gleam in his eye and this smile that later I was to recognize came upon his face. And he said, "Okay, you can help me." So he got all this stuff together. He got the pitcher for the Kool-Aid makings, the water, and some ice that he all put into a wash tub that he would carry over there. And he said to me, "You can carry that for me." I said, "You gonna pay me for carrying that?" He said, "Yeah, I told you I would." So stupid me. I tried to lift it. It was impossible. He said, "Well, if you can't lift it, drag it." So there I was behind him, dragging this thing behind me. It was heavy for a little 5-year-old, but I was doing the best I could, dragging it across the grass. We walked across our lawn and the neighbor's lawn and got to the road, and I dragged it across the road. And I said, "I can't go any farther, Clyde." He said, "Neff, how you gonna earn your money if you don't help me?" I said, "I just can't drag it anymore. I'm too tired. It's too heavy." He gave a big sigh and he said, "Okay, Neff, get that side and I'll get this side." So he lifted his side and it was slanted naturally because I was holding on with 2 hands walking across the golf course over to the tee. And he set up his stand and he got all the things done, and I was sitting to the side watching what he was doing. And he sold all his Kool-Aid. And he said, "Pack up the thing and I'll get your money for you." I said, "Okay." And so I packed everything in there. And he said, "Here you go, here's a dime." Well, a dime to a kid is a lot of money. So I said, "Thank you. Whole dime." And I held on to it, clutched it close to me. I said, "My first earnings." And he picked up the pitcher and started to pour out the Kool-Aid. And I said, "Don't pour that out. Let me have it. I'll drink it." And he said, "Okay, give me a cup," and poured it into my cup with that sparkle in his eye and that smile on his face, and put it back in the wash tub. And I drank it down. And he said, "That'll be a dime." I said, what do you mean that'll be a dime? You're going to throw it out. He said, well, you wanted it. You got to pay for it. Thus ended my helping him with his Kool-Aid stand. Oh, me. That Clyde, I miss him. Okay, folks, it's Friday. The weekend's coming up. I got a fly in the window here. Weekend's coming up. I hope everybody's going to have a good one. We're supposed to have rain. I don't know. Ever since I had that sump pump put in, it hasn't rained here at all. I think God has a really good sense of humor because it hasn't rained since. Anyway, if it rains hard this week, I'll find out if it works or not. Take care of yourselves, folks. I hope you have a good weekend. Until then, I'll say God bless. Until the next time. Bye-bye.